last build I played was amazing at clearing just regular zones and not so much at bosses. This build is insanely strong for boss fights, but it's not the greatest clear speed wise. We are playing a Plague Doctor with stacking as much HP as we can, and then we turn all of that HP into physical damage. To that, let's just start with the skill. Surgical Bloodletting as our main attack. We just throw out and it's gonna bounce between some enemy. There is an augment which you can use. We're gonna talk about it later, and it's gonna make you throw 3 knives instead. All 3 of the knives that you throw out can go at the same target, so you can just shotgun some bosses with it. That's why you're gonna have insane single target. We also want to max out Devout Doctor, which is gonna make the whole thing work. That's gonna convert our life into attack damage. Currently it's turning 552%, that's why we can have 68,000 damage without having pretty much any damage on the weapon itself. Crow's Mask Presence, which is gonna give us a life and auto resistance. Defunct Doctor is gonna drain our HP, but gonna give us insane attack speed, life leech, and attack rating. Booster Shot is another buff, which is gonna give us attack damage and movement speed. This is what's gonna allow us to run through zones very quickly because we don't have a teleport ability. Malpractice, the damage of it doesn't really matter, but it's gonna give us bleed, which we're going to use to buff our damage further with a very special item. Blood Sustenance as a 1-point passive is perfectly enough. It's just life leech and attack damage. And as our specialty, we're going to pick Devout Doctor because it's gonna increase the life to damage scaling, and we're also going to use Lifeblood Aura, which is gonna give us a minor amount of extra HP. For the items, we're going to be using a Bonetti's Rapier. Ideally, you want 3 sockets in it, as high base attack speed as possible. I've filled them up with the attack speed special crafted gems, but you can use Eth runes for ignore target defense, Soul runes for increased deadly strike and stuff like that, but I feel like you're going to get those from other sources. The best thing for me is just pure attacks. For the rings, this is the simplest item that we have, is an Elven Grace. All skill, critical strike damage, attack rating, critical strike damage. Perfect. Since this is a physical attack build, there is a lot of things to keep in mind. We need attack rating, ignore target defense, crushing blow, deadly strike, crit chance, crit damage, all skill, attack rating. It's a lot, but this build is gonna combine everything together very nicely. For the chest piece, we're using a Gem King's Garb, because if you put 6 pristine rubies in it, you're gonna see that we're gonna gain a 90 plus vitality and 60% increased life, which is, as I said, the main driving force of the build is to have as much life as possible, so this is just perfect. For the augment, we're using Surgical Bloodletting. As I said, it's more damage, and even on level 1 you're getting 2 extra projectiles, so it literally triples your single target damage. For the amulet, we're using a Lightbringer's Mark for the all skill, attack speed, mana leech, target defense, ignore dexterity. Again, we use everything from this. If you don't really want to use Lightbringers, you can use a Ravenclaw, ideally as much crit chance and crit damage as possible. You're also gonna get the open wounds, dexterity bonuses. I have way less damage with this than with the Lightbringers. I think it's just much better for my case because it's gonna help get me as much ignore target defense as possible. As you can see, I could get a little bit more, but right now I don't really miss my attacks, or at least it's not really noticeable in my damage. The belt, I'm using a Gladiator King's belt. It's a +2 all skills and extra damage to bleeding enemies. That 48%, it's not like an increase, it's a multiplier to everything. All of these new damages they've added, it's extra damage to bleeding, ignited, frozen, poison monsters. Those are all multipliers. So if you deal 10 million DPS, you're going to equip this belt and you're going to deal 15 million DPS. It's a really good. It's expensive though, so an earlier use could be a Belt of Skulls because it also has that, but it's gonna have increased deadly strike and stuff like that. For the helm, I'm using a Legionnaire, insane helm they've added. It has 6 to physical skills. That only applies to Surgical Bloodletting. The +2 all skills that I have comes from the base of the item, because now if you have an item, let's just go to merchant, usually has this. If we have this on a rune worded item, this is 20 plus dexterity based on level. If you put a rune word in it, it's gonna keep that stat, so that's why it's ideal to get as many all skills from the base item and then put a rune word in it. And the proc on the top is very useful. I feel like a lot of people ignore this because they just don't know what they do. If you start attacking, soon you will see that we get this Live by the Sword, and as you can see, it gives us 100%, 160% increased attack speed. That is because we have a level 20 proc. The lowest I've seen is level 12. Level 12 only gives like 96%, level gives 160%. It is 8% attack speed and 3% movement speed per level. So this is a really important role actually, which a lot of people don't really pay attention to. Even though attack speed kind of has a diminishing return, so after a certain point, the more you get, the less effective it's gonna be. We can still reach around 8 attacks per second with this whole setup. So you should really look out for the physical skills and the live by the sword proc level. The rest doesn't really matter. On the shield, I'm using a Saint Hagar's Bloodford Aegis. This is just a good shield. It gives a bunch of vitality. It's not really the most life you can get. If you're on a lower budget, just use a Tombstone. That's insane amounts of life. This shield makes me really tanky, and it can be 6-socketed. So I have 3 F runes in it for 45% target defense ignore, and 3 soul runes in it, so I have 75% chance for a deadly blow. That's just where I fix my offensive stats. Ideally I want an 8% roll, but it's insanely expensive. As I said, if you don't have the money, just use a Tombstone. For the gloves, I'm using a Demon Fire Accelerators, +2 all skills, attack speed, projectile speed. It's literally what it does. It just makes your projectiles go faster if I have it on, and if I don't. As you can see, they travel much shorter distance, and it can have a bunch of varying stats. Ideally you want something with either Deadly Strike, crit chance, crit damage, all attributes, vitality, life is the best one. Life on level could be like 800 or something. If you don't even get this, you could use something like a Brawlers. For the boots, I'm using a Soul Flaming Marchers, again +2 all skills, and there is again a very large variety. I have crit chance, crit damage, and defense versus missile, which doesn't really matter. I've seen some very nice ones, for example one with attack speed, extra damage to bleeding targets, which has a damage multi, so that would be huge. If you don't have this, just use a Ninja Tabby, perfectly good. And on the weapon swap, we have a Will of Thanos for +6 combat orders, because if we use it, we have a combat orders buff, which is gonna give us more life. And if we have more life, we're gonna have more damage. We can also improve it with an Eye of Rakul with +8 to combat orders, and that actually stacks. All skills doesn't buff, just skills like this. But if you use it like this, now it's gonna be level 14 and it's gonna give us more life, and it's gonna have a longer duration. And while we're at it, for charms, just using an Anubis Ankh with as much flat and percent life. The replenish doesn't really matter. +3 Plague Doctor, Torch of Shadows. Ideally you want more attribute. I have a +1 Annihilator, a +2 Annihilator would be like 300 million gold, so I don't have the money for that. A +3 Fulgurite, +3 Taratiel's Ancient Wisdom, and a +3 Loaded Dice. Right now I just have the cheapest +3, it was like 30-40 million gold or something. For the relics, I have Twin Blade for crit chance crit damage, Holy Bible, I want to get this to level 5 and then level 10 for +2 hot skills, Nunchucks for attack speed and crit damage, and Cake for life percent. For the Mercenary, I'm just trying out something right now, which is a ranged Mercenary from Act 3, and I have a Valkyrie on him. Ideally you want a melee Mercenary with level 16 Fanaticism aura, because it's 80% attack speed. This is only 60%. The reason I'm trying out the ranged Mercenary is because if we go into the skills, there is the Burst of Agility, which the Mercenary has a chance on attack to give the player, and the Mercenary has an attack speed buff, which technically could scale for more, but I've done a wormhole with him and I've seen it for like twice. It was a 3-minute wormhole clear and it was up for like 20 seconds, so not really sure on how he's gonna be able to give me any more attack speed than that. And I'm not sure how tanky he's gonna be, because if it dies faster than the Act 1 Mercenary, then I'm just going to swap back, because we then lose the up to 80% attack speed from the Fanaticism. And on the potions, I'm using a Red Bull for attack speed and move speed, Megata Elixir for attack speed and attack rating, Protein Shake for vitality, and the empty bottle of vodka for +4 all skills. And this is a little bit of a showcase. We're gonna do a wormhole 53. So the way we go is we just weapon swap. I don't want to get the full buff right now because it's just perfectly enough. We're gonna get both of our buffs up, and we're just gonna melt enemies as much as we can melt them at this level. We still have decent damage. As you can see, the clear is okay, I would say. It's not terrible, but you know, if you're a butcher, you just teleport onto the screen and then teleport to the next because everything is dead. Butcher is such a balanced class, but as you can see, we don't really take damage from like pretty much anything. If we cannot life leech, the only thing that's kind of chunking us right now is one of our own damage buffs, which is the Defunct Doctor, because it's gonna take some percent of HP away. I don't know exactly how much, but if you see yourself that you are running low on life, or you're just standing still and using your buffs, that's why. That's gonna be the reason. If you just life leech, you're gonna get it back pretty much instantly. What you need to know if you want to deal full damage is that your blade immediately doesn't split. It needs a very little travel distance. So that's why you can see I'm spreading out 3 knives at the same time. But if I stand really close, like pretty much in their face, the blades don't split, and you will deal like, I don't know, 1/3 of the damage. So you're going to be missing out on a lot if you stand really up close and personal to the enemy. So just have some distance. Then we're gonna come up with the boss fight. Again, weapon swap for the buff. And we're gonna wait a little bit because he's gonna have some time to float in. Use all my potions, my buffs, and have a little bit of a... And he's dead. Nice, that was WormHole 53, and that was the guide. If you want to know how to farm up gold for this build, because right now it's very expensive, you can check out the video here. And in case you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I will make sure to answer everything I can. And until the next video, see you later. Bye!